Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. When was the last time you and your family sat down for a real old-fashioned Sunday dinner? With the prevalence of convenience foods and busier lifestyles, getting together for at least one sit-down dinner a week can be challenging. Well, tonight's conversation is a perfect one as we begin the Thanksgiving week. We are talking to the authors of a new book, Sunday Dinner by Julie Alexandra and Christina Sledge. And we're going to talk tonight about recipes. We're going to talk about some good old-fashioned sit-down dinner conversation, but we're also going to talk about the importance of reconnecting with the Black family at the dinner table. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Sure thing. Let me start with a few fast facts. 93% of families still make eating dinner together a priority, even if it's only a couple of times a week. Now, this is according to a 2024 Gallup poll. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, parents in 2021 were 1.3 times more likely to report frequent dinners compared with before the pandemic, actually in 2018. One of the things that is really fascinating is that also 91% of parents report that their families are less stressed when they share meals together. I want to talk a little bit about your memories. And Julie, I'll start with you about those Black Sunday dinners. What are your best memories of that Black Sunday dinner?
Wow, that's a great question. Definitely my grandmothers, both maternal and paternal grandparents, always had Sunday dinner. And as a matter of fact, in my home, just with my mom, dad, and my sister, my mom was a huge proponent of eating at the dinner table. We ate at the dinner table every night, outside of Sunday. But I just remember Sundays being a day where you went to grandma's house, or even if you stayed home, there was a particular time of the day, mostly after church or, towards the evening, where you got together and you gathered for Sunday dinner. It was no special occasion. It wasn't a birthday, a holiday. It was just Sunday was the occasion. So you went to grandma's house or you stayed home and you had Sunday dinner, and everybody came from all over the place, different family members and stuff like that. And that was a tradition. It was normal. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing, that this was not considered a big deal. It was considered normal. What did that table look like? And for specific geographic purposes, where was this? I mean, where were you? What part of the country were you raised in? Tell me about that.
Yes, I am a native Washingtonian. We lived in Northeast. One of my grandmothers lived literally around the corner. She was walking distance. And then the other one lived uptown in Northwest. So we were all, my family, I was always used to my family all being in the same geographic location. But the table, it was always a tablecloth. It was styled. It was dressed. There were dishes there. Every grandma that I knew had a china closet. So it was dishes in the china closet. And everybody, not just was the table dressed, everybody that attended the dinner looked nice, and they were dressed in particular clothing. So you didn't come to the dinner table with rollers in your hair, and you didn't come to the table like that. You came to the table dressed, with your face cleaned, and that's what it was. So yeah, that's what I remember.
Same thing for you, Christina. One thing I do know, so you're a New Yorker.
Yes.
So talk to me about your Black Sunday family dinners. I would imagine, there were no Timberlands at the table. There were no
No, sir. No. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I lived in DMV now for 20 years, but born and raised Brooklyn, New York, Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I was very blessed to be around 4 generations of women. I had my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, aunts, etc., uncles, all of those folks involved in my rearing. So really, it was that village that was always around us. My family is from the Caribbean, so we have that background: Panama, Barbados. And so when my great grandmother and her family came from Panama, Barbados, they lived in Brooklyn. They settled in Brooklyn. And we were very fortunate in the sense that we had kind of like this upper middle class upbringing from that generation all the way back to the 1940s onward. And so I had the residual of that. And with that, it came very, very, posh kind of expectations. You went to have very high etiquette, understanding, and we had we were debutantes. We went to cotillions. So at my great grandmother's house, she was our mama, and at her house, that's where we had the Sunday dinners. And so we always had same type of thing like Julie. We had the china cabinet. We had buffet always set with the finest foods that we would have. And, all of that was still very much ingrained in any Black family's house that you would see, big macaroni and cheese, big chicken. We had some delicacies from the West Indies, from Panama and Barbados as well, black pudding and cuckoo from Barbados. But yes, it was very important that we came with our Sunday best, very much like Julie's family, coming with the Sunday best, everyone sitting down at the table. And it was normal. And it was something we did every Sunday. And it was something that we all looked forward to.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Christina, because I think this is interesting also. What do you believe those Black Sunday dinners meant for the family? What was the significance of that?
Oh, definitely tradition. I think also legacy in a lot of ways for us, because like I said, we had those multiple generations. Even before my great grandmother, for her mom passed, it was our great grandmother. So my mother had the benefit of having her and her life growing up. And so I think for us, it was just always having that opportunity to get together, talk together every Sunday, sharing recipes, that way we don't lose them. They get passed down to the next generation, like my generation, and understanding the importance of that. And so that was so important. I think that's what I got out of it as a youngster. We had them up until I was a teenager. And then my great grandmother passed away, but it was always important. And so that's why I wanted to bring this back.
Yeah. Julie, same question to you. What do you think was the significance for your family at those Black Sunday dinners, and what kinds of conversations do you remember from a little girl all the way up until you began to develop your own household?
So first of all, the food was good. I remember that much. The food was always good at grandma's house. So I always went with an empty stomach and came out full. So, but definitely connection. I agree with Christina, the anchor of legacy. And I had a lot of cousins. I love my cousins. So to this day, we're grown now, but I was always looking forward to seeing my cousins and playing in the yard and sitting on a porch. Both my grandmothers had porches. Porches were very important in the Sunday dinner household. Porches were, everybody pretty much had a porch. And we would sit on the porch. We would wait for the ice cream truck. I just remember all of that thing, that tradition, even after eating and the playing, and the conversations were, it was about everything from education to pulling out pictures. Grandma will always pull out photo albums and pictures. So it was a joy to go back and see my parents when they were little, and just all of those different things. That's what I primarily remember. But yeah, the food was the food was primary.
I'm thinking back to, my own, upbringing, and was particularly blessed because I had one set of grandparents on my father's side on Bass Place Southeast.
Yep.
Right off of East Capitol Street. But we used to go there every Thursday.
Okay.
It was planned, it was normal, but we went every Thursday. But then not as frequently, but on my mother's side, we would go to 48th Place in Northeast on the other side of East Capitol Street, just around the corner from the shrimp boat, from the shrimp boat, right off of Benning Road.
Yes.
Come on, Northeast.
My grandmother was 49th. Yeah.
Well, see, and you didn't call me.
Right.
So, and it was, I think, one of the things that I do remember, and we're talking about, during the 70s, because that's when I was a kid, in both households, whether it was Thursday or whether it was Sunday, was that there was no television. That was part of that moment. There was a television in the other room.
Right.
But we didn't have that. We sat around and we talked, and as children we basically listened, because the adults were the ones who were carrying on the conversation. But it really was a bonding, and we didn't know that it was bonding
right
back then. It was, we're just going to grandma's house to eat,
right,
and to leave, stuff like a tick on a hound dog by the end. At the end. But when you look at it, and I'll ask you this, Julie, and I'll start with you. Okay, you're married, and you're an entrepreneur. How do you maintain that tradition when you're running around, being an entrepreneur, trying to make sure that business stays successful?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's difficult when you get older and you're running your own household. My husband typically does not get off until about 8 in the evening. I'm lucky if I make it past that time. I turn into a pumpkin around 7:30, so I'm usually tired. We usually get up very early. I'm usually up by 3 a.m. And then and it's just me, my husband, and my youngest son in the house. So it is difficult a lot of times, but one thing I do make sure of, when he gets home, he always has a hot plate. For 20 plus years, I have fixed my husband's plate, and I don't mind it at all.
That's that's another show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
right. We gotta come back on about the husband's plate, right? So, but I just make sure, it's just important that my family has a good meal, and we're guilty. We do not sit at the dinner table every day of the week, and sometimes not even on Sunday. But I do make it a point to make sure that meals are prominent in the house. And then, if I cook, I fix the plate, I prepare it well, and I try not to just throw a meal together. Even if we order something out, I'll still take it out and put it on the plate and make it pretty. But yeah, that's a good question. It is hard for a lot of families because you work different schedules. You're up early in the morning, you're picking up kids from school. So it can be very difficult to try to continue those and be consistent about those types of traditions.
Listen, I've got to take a break, but I want to get into the cooking part, the food, and more about the book on the other side. For those of you who are interested in finding out more about it, you can find the book on the website juliealexandra.living.com. And we're also going to talk about an event that they had several weeks back that I participated in. Like I said, that whole being stuff like a tick on a hound dog. Yes, that was me. The food was absolutely fantastic. Good food, good company. And we're going to talk about food. And look, something that you need to think about as you get ready for this Thanksgiving. So listen, stay with us. We're going to take a break. You can hear this and every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR-FM. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 and 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about Black Sunday dinners with the authors of a new book. It was just out last week, Sunday Dinner by Julie Alexandra and Christina Sledge. Christina, before the break, I was asking Julie about how do you maintain the cohesiveness of Black Sunday dinner, or let me just say Black family dinners, because you also are a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and life is busy.
Yeah, life is life, and I'll tell you that. Yeah, absolutely. I admittedly, I don't maintain it. I think that was really one of the reasons why I wanted to really embark on this project with Julie, because I saw that breakdown in my own family, and I see it in multiple friends, family members, etc., because we are so busy, because life is life, and you are trying to maintain all and do all the things. I'm a business owner, and I also I'm working on a doctorate right now as well. So, and many other projects and endeavors at the same time. So, admittedly, no, we've struggled with that. And I think it's because I have two daughters. One is in college right now. One is a senior in high school. And we're just always going at different paces. We're on our own paths of doing all the things. My husband, he's also working with me on the businesses. So we don't get that chance to sit down because we're always doing that. And that's why I wanted to really reinvigorate the idea, the tradition of Sunday dinners again, and bring that back to my own household first, right? And then, as a community, working with Julie to also embody that in our own families, but then bringing it back out to our community and getting that reinvigorated and bringing the tradition back so we can carry on that tradition that we did gain from our grandmothers, our great grandmothers. So that is, that is my challenge, is really bringing that back. And also something that I have a solution for, which is setting the time and doing it, setting the time on a Sunday and planning out the dinner and sitting down. Let's take the time and sit. And we talk about that in the book and how you can plan your own dinner.
And that's the thing that I wanted to ask you about, because you said this isn't just about your household, Christina, but this is about having the conversation in the community, outside of obviously talking to Julie about this and embarking on this project. What are those conversations like when you talk to your sister friends or even your brother friends? I mean, do you get pushback where they may say, Christina, I can't find time to feed myself sometimes. I may start off cooking and I may fall asleep at the table because folks are busy. What are they telling you?
What they're saying is, a lot of my friends and my husband, admittedly, he's never had a Sunday dinner in that traditional sense like Julie and I experienced. We had Sunday dinners at my own house when the kids were little and I had a lot more time. So he understood what that was. But the pushback, I think, is more so, like you said, the time is limited. But I did also receive lots of positive feedback.
Mm.
Wow, I really would enjoy just to slow down a bit. And it really does feel great when you sit down, like we did a few weeks ago, all of us on this call. We had others and our family there. It felt really good, didn't it?
Yeah,
Like
it did. Yeah.
I think folks are, sometimes you don't know what you don't need, or you don't know what you do need because you don't have it.
Right.
And so I think it's one of those things where we provide this experience and we help folks understand that maybe you didn't have the traditional Sunday dinner in your childhood growing up, but now we have an opportunity to create what that could be for everyone, whatever that means to your specific family.
I do want to talk about the book. I think, Julie, a lot of people may be familiar with you because you make really fantastic cakes, but I want to talk more broadly about what was the genesis of the book. Why did you decide to do this?
So I met Christina. It's been almost a year, right, Christina? About a year ago, and I was at a sort of a crossroads in my business where I wanted to expand services and I wanted to do some different things, and I had some really great concepts for doing that. But I met Christina and we had this instant connection. We met at a filming for a holiday filming for the holidays and setting the table. And so I did a segment for setting the table, and she walks up to me and she's like, "Oh my God, that was amazing. Let's connect, let's talk." And it was just great to have a conversation with someone else who just got it. And so it was easy for me and easy for us to just have this conversation. And it was just like, it was a no-brainer for us. Let's just do this. Let's just start a conversation. This doesn't have to be, hard or difficult. And that's basically what we did. And we just put our experiences together. We started to draft a book, and we would get on weekly calls, and that's what you have in Sunday Dinner. It's just a collaborative effort on both of our parts, because we are so passionate about that reconnection and wanting to have that conversation and wanting other people to enjoy getting back to those basics and just getting back to that anchor of the family and it all surrounds around food, which is Sunday Dinner.
So when we had that dinner in Upper Marlboro, and we were kind of sitting, and look, I'm a big foodie, but the food was extraordinary. And it was, and it not only tasted good, but it really looked good, and it was absolutely delicious. And I must say, I mean, chef's kiss, because it was a Black experience, but it was a really refined, Black experience. And that saying, you may not remember what somebody said, but you remember how they made you feel. And this really made me feel, really very comforted. I had the itis driving home, and
I think we all did, Harold.
Yeah.
That just tells how great it was. Absolutely.
So, but I'll start with you there, Christina. You can join in when what kind of recipes are in this book? I mean, is stuff complicated? What is there? This is Thanksgiving week. Give me your Thanksgiving best list for the table, Julie.
I mean, obviously the traditional staples: macaroni and cheese, sweet potatoes, some type of green string beans, roasted vegetables. And then some people have traditionally come out of eating turkey every Thanksgiving, but there are other things in the book like short ribs. If you were a short rib, you had the short ribs, Harold. You already know.
No, the short ribs had me. The short ribs had me, but please, go ahead. Let's talk about the macaroni and cheese. Just let me just have. Can we have a macaroni and cheese moment? Because I like macaroni and cheese that is simple. When it's got 5 different cheeses in it, it kind of loses me. What's in that recipe? Talk to me about that.
So has been a lifelong debate, eggs or no eggs in macaroni and cheese. I personally don't use eggs in the macaroni and cheese. I just use the macaroni, the cheese. I use a combination of cream and milk. I do start off with a roux to make my cream sauce. And that's pretty much it. Some seasonings, and that is it. And you asked about how complicated the recipes are. They really aren't. Even if you take a stab at just one of the recipes, make your grocery list. It's really easy to make a grocery list. You don't have to cook a whole meal. Cook one thing out of the book and just work your way up from there. So you don't have to make it complicated, but the writing, the print is big. You don't even have to squint to read the recipes. The writing is big. We're in a 50 and over club, so we need big writing. So the writing's big, and they're really easy to follow. The recipes are extremely easy to follow. But yeah, that's a lot of what's in the book. And Christina has a wonderful cucumber salad that's amazing. My husband loves cucumbers with any type of vinegar and tomatoes. It's really, really a nice.
Okay, so Christina, let's hear about this. What's in it? I mean, run the recipe down, and then I'm going to start getting into some more Thanksgiving, some do's and don'ts from your opinions and how to really make the food taste the way we want it to taste. Go ahead, Christina.
So for like Julie said, the cucumber salad, simple, very simple. I have a picture for you for those who can see it.
Right, because this will be posted on the website.
Yeah. So it has cucumbers, tomatoes, very simple, and then we're just dressing it with salt, pepper, vinegar.
What kind of vinegar?
Oh, just white vinegar.
Okay, because see, when you said vinegar, the first thing that I'm thinking is apple cider vinegar.
Well, you know what? I'm going back to this is my great grandmother's recipe. So she just used white vinegar. So I kept it. I sometimes will use balsamic vinegar, but my great grandmother, she had very, back to the essence of the white vinegar. So so this is actually her recipe, and I included it in here. And to speak about the macaroni and cheese, we have 2 big macaroni and cheese recipes in the book. And that was because everyone has their own macaroni and cheese recipe. But what you'll see is Julie and my recipe are very similar, only different. There's a couple differences, but mine is for a smaller group. So we talk about those differences in different families. I'm basically halfway empty nester right now. So I used to cook the big macaroni and cheese and then several, lots of days of leftovers, which is great because it's always better like the next 2 days. But what I started over the years is making a smaller portion. So my recipe is for folks that still want macaroni and cheese, but just for like 2 or 3 people.
So what kind of cheese, Christina?
I use sharp cheddar.
Sharp cheddar. Same.
100% sharp cheddar. No American cheese, nothing like that. Just straight cheddar. I think that really is very important for the richness of it.
Yeah.
I use a roux. I create a roux.
Yeah.
What's in your roux? Because I want to hear about that too from Julie. But what's in your roux, Christina? How do you make that? Because
for me,
I know a lot of people. If you don't get the roux right, it's going to be wrong.
Yes. And so for me, I have we put butter, right?
Salted or unsalted?
I have salted.
Okay.
Again, I'm going back to what grandma did.
That's fine. Go ahead.
What great grandma did. So my recipe is what my great grandmother used to make. And so she has salted butter. We have flour, right, for the roux. And so you whisk that together. Also, I have evaporated milk. I use that in my cream sauce, and also whole milk. And so that's how I start making my roux, and then I start putting. I use shredded cheese. My great grandmother did not use shredded cheese. She chopped up the cheese, slices, sliced up the cheese. Over the years I switched to shredded, and I think that was a time saver, to be honest. But yeah, and that helped me make that roux sauce with the cheese sauce. Yep, and then
how do you season it?
Season it. I use adobo. I don't know if I put that in the recipe because I don't know if everyone did. I just use black pepper and salt in this recipe because that's how my grandmother did it with paprika. But I use adobo, and I think over the years I kind of evolved to that as well. It's a little twist on it, just a little twist.
What about your roux, Julie? Because again, as I said, your mac and cheese that I had when I was, with you and and your family and Christina and everyone, it was. Is there any more left? So what's in your roux?
Same, pretty much flour. I use butter, but unsalted or salted, whatever I have available. But one thing is important to note is that I make sure all of my ingredients are room temperature. So like my butter, if I don't use evaporated milk and I use regular vitamin D milk, that milk needs to be room temperature. It should not be cold, because when you're making that sauce, you want to make sure all of your ingredients really mesh well together. I do shred my cheese fresh. That also makes a difference when you want the cheese to melt a certain way. Bag cheese doesn't melt quite the same way all the time. But if you do have to use bag cheese, make sure it is room temperature. Don't just pull it out the refrigerator cold. Make sure it's room temperature. And as far as seasoning, I just use salt and pepper. I just use a little salt and pepper, but I do put in a dash of nutmeg. Nutmeg heightens the flavor and the nuttiness of the cheese. And I use sharp cheese.
Yeah, because I was going to say, based on what you were sharing and based on what I ate, it doesn't seem to be, particularly unique, but there it is. The nutmeg. I've never heard that. Where did that come from?
You know what? I've been doing it for years. I might have been watching a cook show one day, and they put nutmeg in it, and they explained why they used it. And I just started using it over 20 years ago, and it does change the flavor profile of the. You don't need to put a lot because nutmeg is a very strong spice, but it does change or heighten the flavor of the sharpness in the cheese. It really does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
One thing I forgot to mention in my roux, I also have spicy brown mustard. That's what. Yeah. So that gives it a little, a little zing. So that's something that my mother, my great grandmother used to do. So when Julie said the nutmeg, it reminded me of that.
So I want to talk about between the two of you, probably two of the most important dishes for Thanksgiving. And I'll start with you, Julie. Let's talk about the turkey. What is your best turkey tip for those who may want to try, something a little different, or may need some help?
Well, I always use a good brine. Now you can use a brine seasoning kit right out of the grocery store, or you can make your own. And it's typically a vinegar, apple juice, different spices. You can use orange slices, different herbs like rosemary, sage, and you soak that turkey. First of all, make sure the turkey is thawed. Make sure the turkey is thawed. And you want to thaw your turkey out. If it's frozen, you want to thaw your turkey out in the refrigerator at least 2 to 3 days before you start cooking. And then I have really good pans. So I use a really good roasting pan. But if you do want a nice juicy breast on your turkey, roast it upside down for the first couple of hours, because all the juices run to the breast, and then you can flip it back over for browning. So I've been using that technique for years. And then also right under the skin of the breast, that's where you can stuff all your butter, your herbs, your seasoning, your salt. You stuff it under the skin. and you rub that baby down with all types of butter, and you're gonna have a beautiful brown, juicy, seasoned turkey. And then try not to overdo the size of the turkey either. Sometimes people get intimidated when you have this big 30-pound turkey. It can be a little intimidating. Try to downsize in terms of the size if you can.
Let me go back to the brine. Because I know you said you can get stuff from the grocery store. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Julia and Christina today.
Right.
So so specifically, number one, what is in Julie's brine? And also run me through your brine process. How long? Tell the turkey tale.
So I usually boil my brine. I'll do like a coarse salt, maybe a Himalayan pink salt, or just a regular coarse salt, vinegar, apple juice, orange slices, onion, different spices like rosemary, sage, thyme, and I'll boil it first for about, I would say probably for about an hour or so, 45 minutes to an hour. But you got to let it completely cool before you actually soak the turkey. Don't soak your cold turkey in the hot brine. But let it, yeah. So you want to make sure it's room temperature, and then find the biggest pot that you can find. Now, if you have a bigger refrigerator at home and you can put the whole pot in the refrigerator, take the turkey, completely submerge it in the brine and let it soak. I usually let mine soak for overnight. When you're done though, make sure that you rinse off the excess spices and all of that other stuff. You don't want to cook that onto the turkey because the turkey's going to have enough seasoning on its own. It's going to be completely cured by that point. And then you go ahead and do your normal process of, I usually never stuff my turkey before I roast it. I put my stuffing separately in a pan. I'm not a big proponent of the stuffing being in the turkey when you bake it. But what I will do is in the cavity of the turkey, I'll put like oranges, onions, garlic, just all types of nice vegetables, carrots, and all of that type of stuff in the cavity, and that makes extra flavor for it.
So when you said if you want a juicy breast, you want to begin roasting the turkey upside down. So let's say you have a 20-pound turkey. How long do you turn the turkey upside down before you turn it to its traditional breast up roasting position?
Usually about 2 hours. If your turkey calls, I usually do the half of the time. So if your turkey calls for 4.5 to 5 hours, I usually do maybe the first 2 hours upside down, and I flip it, and then I'll do the rest. I'll cook it the rest of the way, in the traditional way.
Okay. Christina, you are up. We are talking about stuffing. Or is it dressing? You tell me what they.
We call it stuffing in my family. We also call it stuffing. Interestingly enough, my great grandmother, she used to stuff the turkey, and I think it did taste really good because of the juices from the turkey are in the actual stuffing. I'm like Julia. I do mine outside of the bird. And primarily we have this day old bread, stale type bread, and butter, obviously, herbs.
What herbs? Give me the details, because I think the people who are listening, they want to know what's in it.
I put sage, all the traditional things given: sage, rosemary, thyme. Those are my three that I typically go to, because it gives you that Thanksgiving smell, like the aroma therapy that you get at Thanksgiving time. And so I think those are like the holy trinity for anything that even if it's just like this year, we're not doing turkey. We're actually doing pot roast. And that's in honor of my great grandmother as well. I'm using her recipe, and bay leaves, rosemary will be in there as well. That's going to cook for many hours because I use a slow cooker for that one while I'm cooking all the other sides. But when I did do a turkey, I fried my turkey. I did a fried turkey, and I got that from living in Savannah. I lived in Savannah, Georgia for about 5 years, and that once I had my first fried turkey, Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I'm set. I'm done. So I won't have it any other way. So yeah, I have an actual appliance that's a fryer, and they usually have them right now on sale everywhere. But that keeps it safe, you know. That keeps it safe, so you're not outside with the, you know, the big vat of
oil and all of that.
Yeah. So that and so I'm very similar to Julie. We would have a brine, but my brine had more of I'm looking at my recipe right here. It's brown sugar, ice, salt and pepper, thyme, rosemary, like I said, garlic, cayenne pepper, and then the water. Same type of thing. Just like Julie, you cook that, right? You boil it, cool before you put the turkey in it. For us, we did it overnight. And because we lived in New York, and a lot of folks live on, if you are on the East Coast this time of year, it's still kind of cold. If you didn't have a big, and this was a tip I learned from my dad, if you didn't have a big refrigerator to hold that giant, because sometimes you have like the big bucket. I don't know. Like Home Depot, they have those big buckets that have a lid on it. And so if it's cold enough outside in your garage or something like that, you can put your turkey in there to brine it with a lot of ice. Overnight. That keeps the temperature in there. And that's a quick tip. That was something
I like, because a lot of people don't, you know, they don't think about that. If you go to your big box hardware store and you get a bucket and they're cheap, it's a good way to do it. I'm running out of time. I only have a few minutes, and I'll ask you, Christina, what do you want people to take away from this recipe book?
That it's about what we talked about earlier, you know, carrying on tradition to the new generation, to this generation, and further, because we're the aunties and grandmas now. We're the aunties and grandmas now. So let's not lose those recipes. Let's not lose those traditions. Let's carry them on. And if you never had them, let's start them. That's my message.
Julie, the same question. I'll let you have the last word.
Sure. And Christina touched on this a little earlier, but anybody who reads the book or sees the book, understanding that this is attainable, whether you come from a traditional household or not. I don't want anybody to feel intimidated that because they didn't have grandma or auntie or uncle, that this is not something that they can do in their own home. So whoever you have in your house, whoever's near and dear to you, get your children involved and all of those good things. But this is attainable for any family structure. There's simple recipes. And even if you don't have a lot of family, get with your neighbors, get with your next door neighbor or people down the street, and just start to create a cycle of tradition and start having conversations and being more connected as a community. So that would be my takeaway.
Wonderful. I think that this is such a great, idea, not just feeding your stomach, but certainly feeding your soul. Julie Alexandra, Christina Sledge, thank you all so much. Congratulations, on the book. And save me a plate.
Yes.
I got you. We got to do a dinner part 2.
Oh, listen. Yes. I am here for all of that. I'm just gonna starve myself for 3 days right before I show up. Ladies, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
That is the Daily Drum for this Monday, November 24th. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.